SexyHackers.com.
Once upon a time, there were a few young girls with a passion for literature, a love of the written word, an inspired infatuation of... Okay, fine. We were a bunch of super dorks with no friends. We spent all day hiding out in our rooms, reading books that were maybe a little inappropriate.
Welcome to Let Me Read This, a podcast where a group of Milwaukee gals get together to discuss the often problematic and intense books of our childhood and young adult lives, and how it's colored our view as adults and how much we've spent on therapy. Not enough. I'm going to say that.
More than anyone in this book.
Yeah, that's absolutely.
Which is $0, and it should have been many dollars.
Many dollars. Yep. Welcome to our guest today, Andrea Roedel-Schroeder, the Hulk. I'm just gonna keep calling you that. Michelle White.
Hi.
Hi, Hulk.
I'm like a werewolf. I rage out, turn into a beast.
Oh, and Sarah Wallisch, who officially nominated this book. I know there was some. Sarah, was this you?
It might have actually been me, yeah, because we were talking about what we should do for Valentine's Day. We're like, we need to find a book that's like love themed for Valentine's Day, and I was like, obviously Twilight.
Ew, why?
Gross.
I mean, it's about love in so much as it shows you what the opposite of love should be.
Yeah, yep. It's not healthy love.
Hey, if you relate to literally anything in this book, get a therapist, please. Now.
And I think that was part of the challenge of reading this. Michelle and I both read this as adults as opposed to when they first came out. I think one of the things that I recognized in here was shame for any emotion that I felt slightly similar to this when I was a teenager. I was like, a little bit.
Oh,
yeah,
God. Or now. I don't know, sometimes. Sorry.
Well, and I think the difference is, like, as an adult, you feel that feeling, and
but
you
realize, like,
oh, geez, oh, that's not okay.
Yeah. Or that feels great, but I should probably back off.
And we touched on that in previous episodes, that idea of, like, as an adult, you read something like this, and you think about times when you felt like that, and you're like, oh, that wasn't okay.
Yeah, the critical
but
thinking
reading it as a teenager,
you think that's how,
or as a child, because like we were all kind of big readers as children, and I'm sure read kind of above our age a lot. Where if this is written at like a 8th grade level, I would have been reading it in 5th grade.
Yep.
And
terrifying.
Like how many
easily could read this.
young women who are now in their 20s
Are looking for their
now in their
Edward or
20s,
Jacob.
When your brain
like
has been
this-
formed about
this
what?
informed their love map.
I'm so sorry, pumpkins.
Not okay.
Nope, not at all.
It's not okay.
And now they're like learning that that's not okay.
Maybe, hopefully.
We'll get there.
But yeah, you read that as a teenager or as a preteen, and you think like, oh, that's what it feels like to really be in love.
Barf.
When really, that's what it feels like when you need a clinician. You need mental health intervention if you're dissociating and hallucinating.
Yeah. If you have no desire to stay alive,
Talk to
talk to
Here's the
somebody.
thing. It's okay.
I was just about to say, been there.
You're not broken.
Right.
Like, it's not because somebody abandoned you. It's because you're sick and ill and you're struggling and you need help.
Yep.
And unlike
right.
Your brain chemistry just needs a little shifteroo.
There's
you just need help, and that's fine.
a
You
comedian.
need some strategies.
There's a comedian who, one of his things he talks about, he's like, they put on your forums, have you ever had suicidal thoughts? And it's like, has anyone not? Am I like the only person? Like, what kind of question is that? Of course I do, every day. Okay, not every day, people, but you know.
Yeah, but I think especially a lot of artists out there, I don't want to say it's what makes them great artists, but we have struggles, we have challenges. There's a lot going on in your lives, and we lean heavily into the arts and writing and visual arts.
And there's
as an
also
outlet.
that trope of like artists, like the tortured artist trope, which on one hand makes sense and on the other hand is kind of bullshit. Like Van Gogh's greatest works, I just saw, let's be honest, I saw it on Facebook. I just saw a thing about Van Gogh where they're like, yes, Van Gogh had serious mental health struggles, was seriously depressed, was suicidal, was like in a very bad place a lot of the time. But the times when he was in a better place and getting treatment or getting some sort of intervention were when he created his most his like most famous and most beautiful works.
Yep. It's when he was recovering and getting back to that good place. So yeah, that's a really good point to our our community of artists out there. Don't feel you have to suffer for your art. Keep yourself healthy.
Yes. And on a general note, don't feel you have to suffer for relationships like this book.
Yes.
And on that note, actually, we should, for anybody who hasn't listened the last couple of weeks, probably should just do a quick recap for them on what we've been talking about. Speaking of suffering for relationships.
That's all this. That's the summary.
Suffering for relationships, vampires and werewolves are real.
Yeah.
So, Bella, a klutzy human, and Edward, a sparkly vampire, are so in love. That is until she gets a paper cut, and his brother tries to eat her.
Happens to everybody.
His family, the Cullens, move away, and Edward tells Bella that it's because he doesn't really love her, and that he'll make it like he never existed. So she lays down in the woods to die, like you do. But then she's rescued by a super totally strong shirtless Quileute man named Sam Yulee. Then she spends months in a catatonic state until her dad, Charlie, who is a DILF, is really worried. And he says, hey, do you think you maybe need to talk to somebody? And she says, I don't want to do that. And he says, no. Okay. You were so close, Charlie.
One moment.
You were so close.
There.
So Bella eventually figures out that dangerous situations make her have hallucinations of Edward's voice. And so she starts hanging out with Jacob Black, her dad's friend's son.
Who's in love with her?
Who's in love with her, to try and chase that adrenaline high. They build some motorcycles. She crashes a motorcycle. And then Jacob ditches her. And she finds out that it's because he's a werewolf and part of a pack of werewolves who arise, in quotes, in his tribe whenever there's a vampire threat. And so they find out that another vampire, Victoria, is looking for Bella, wants to kill her. She is the mate of the vampire that almost killed Bella in the previous book. And the werewolves are trying to keep Bella safe, but she's bored, so she goes cliff diving.
Right.
And she almost drowns. When she almost drowns, Alice comes to Forks because Alice can see the future, but only sort of, but not when werewolves are around. And so she sees Bella decide to jump off the cliff, but she doesn't see Jacob save her.
She has enough foresight to mess things up.
Yeah,
basically, yeah.
Essentially.
To always get it wrong.
Yeah, she can see the future, but then picture 17 asterisks after that of all of
it's
the
like
exceptions.
a choose your own adventure where you look at one ending.
Yeah.
And you're like, this is going to happen, except for you have to choose all the right pathways up until that point in order for that to be the ending. Yeah. Anyway. So Edward calls, Jacob answers the phone, and conveniently doesn't mention that Bella is not in fact dead. Yep. And so Edward thinks Bella's dead, and he decides to go to Rome, Italy? Someplace in Italy.
Yeah.
And provoke the Volturi, who are fancy vampire royalty dudes, to try and make them kill him, which Alice sees, sort of, with her...
With her asterisk.
Yeah. That's great. And so Alice and Bella go to Italy to try and stop him.
Yep.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Now we're in Italy.
Now we're in Italy. Because, she's a teenager who can just go to Italy.
Mm-hmm. She has a passport.
I would be so grounded.
So grounded.
I got grounded once as a teenager. But if I did that, I would be so grounded.
Yeah, she left a real quick note. BRB went to Italy. Alice had a prem of nothing. Gotta go.
Also, who can afford... well, I guess the Cullens are rich, so Alice probably paid.
But then, they steal things. Alice steals a super fancy car to go.
She does.
I did have a moment while they were on the plane. Before they landed, Alice says to her, she knows she's going to get turned. She just wants to turn her right now on the plane. And then that's all she can think about is that, just do it here. Just change me now.
She moans Alice's name a lot.
Yeah, she even says...
Well, Which is not discreet at all.
No, maybe.
The lady on the plane next to you is like, Alice. What? Ma'am?
She says, maybe when I was beautiful and strong, he wouldn't want distractions. Maybe if she changed her, she'd be good enough.
Yuck.
Yes.
Gross.
So I hate it to like go back to that.
Hate it. Please do, because it's the worst. It's the worst.
I wouldn't let him be distracted. If I was beautiful and strong, he wouldn't need to be distracted. Those are the literal words. Just come on, girl. Have more confidence.
Yeah.
It's just like the last one where somebody got too close to him while he was angry. Like, you're taking all the onus on these women to...
Horrible.
And it's like these moments where, you know, the author could have her pass through that feeling and come to a greater understanding of like what is okay, and she doesn't.
Never happens. No. They get to Italy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which good enough. Of all the things that don't take forever, somehow the insanely long travel time to Italy from the Pacific coast is like super fast.
And I fell asleep and I didn't know.
Yeah, they would not. It's physically impossible that they would have arrived in time, but whatever, it's fine.
Sure. Gotcha.
Well, how far in the future is Alice seeing this?
She says he's going to do it at noon. And is it the night before?
Yeah, it's
He
somebody
goes to the Volturi at noon.
to be like, hey guys,
Could you
want
want
to kill me? Just kill me, maybe?
And they're like, nah, we're good.
He wants to make the biggest scene, right? So he wants to go out in midday.
In the middle of the day, so
when
he
it's super
sparkles.
sunny and there's like something going on.
And I was like super fuzzy about the timeline because Alice is like, he's gonna go to Italy and try and get the Volturi. To kill him, we need to go.
yeah.
But like what he does is he goes to the Volturi and he's like, hey, you guys should kill me. And they're like,
Nah.
okay, but
gonna
like,
deliberate.
no, we're gonna, we'll talk about it. And then they're like, no, we're not gonna do that. And then he's like, well, in that case.
Yeah. And
But
then
she does say that he wants to do it right at noon because that's the most sun.
Right.
yeah,
And
because
but does that, are they already on the plane?
Nope.
Like, are they already on their way there before he gets turned down by the
She just knows
Volturi?
they're going to tell him no. Or she doesn't.
it's
she-
all
I feel
very
like
murky.
I read this, but I don't really remember.
Yeah, it's
See,
rough.
You know what I'm talking about. You spaced out while you were reading.
Definitely.
Well, and the whole thing too is his plan is to walk out in the sunlight and sparkle, and everybody will be like, "Oh shit, a vampire!" It's
Or they could be like glitter.
Yeah, it's
Right.
literally during a festival in the city.
Yeah.
That is based around everybody dressing up in costumes like red cloaks and like vampire fangs and all of this stuff. So, like, they would just be like, "Oh man, dude, your glitter is sick.
Your
What a
costume's
show."
amazing, dude.
Where'd you get that, Amazon?
Right? Special effects. It's amazing.
How did you get that? How did you get the like coverage so even?
Yeah,
You know?
nobody would have.
Kesha jumps out of the crowd and she's like, "Who are you?"
Let me show you the sponge.
That's the secret. Kesha's been a vampire this whole time.
Oh shit.
Illuminati.
Kesha, call me.
So then, fortunately, Bella actually gets there in time, like just in time, as Edward just starts to sparkle, and she shoves him back into the shadows.
She like body slams him and he doesn't move because he's very strong.
Very strong.
Very strong. And so she's like, no, you have to take a step back.
It's like, no, really?
And he just thinks he's already dead.
Yep, and it's a dream.
And we're
she's
back
wonderful.
together because it's meant to be. And it's so
Even though I don't think I have a
so
soul,
much.
so
I don't
I
have a
wouldn't
soul.
have gone to wherever you went.
Right.
I just
Well,
hate
whatever.
it so much.
The worst.
She dissuades him, and then, of course, Edward and Bella and Alice are brought before the Volturi because Edward almost just let the giant vampire cat out of the bag to the city that vampires exist. And they're like,
delightful mental
you jerk. Why did you do that?
And we spend roughly 15 pages on by far the most interesting shit in this entire book.
Yeah, like 15 pages of something really
By the way,
interesting.
secret vampire society. One's bored, one's sassy, one seems like he
I
kind of
love
is
it.
nauseous. Like, one can cause people pain with her mind. One's just there and we never talk about him.
I love that you just turn them into like, for like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. They're like, there's grumpy, sassy, nauseous. Which is, it's what we do.
It
All right.
is about an accurate portrayal. It
is. All right, before we dive into this last chunk of action in the most exciting 15 pages of the book, let's take a quick break with a word from our sponsors here at Sexy Hackers for giving us this awesome space to record our podcast at, and be sure to check out the other awesome podcasts on this network. I know the All Arcadians come out twice a month. I know a particularly attractive actor who's does voice work on there. I get to say that. Whatever.
Does he sparkle?
When I throw glitter on him, yeah. I've seen it happen at a Studio 54 New Year's Eve party. It was pretty great.
Glitter bomb.
Yep.
That was the year of the glitter bombs. Ugh. I had wood floors.
It's terrible. Anyway, be sure to check them out. It is very, very entertaining and well written. And we'll be right back after this.
SexyHackers.com.
And we're back. That's an adorable senior photo pose. I love it.
That was my actual senior photo pose.
Oh, nice. I did the over the shoulder.
Mine is like this, actually.
Where they told me not to actually put my face on my hands at all.
Oh man,
Gosh.
I was
Because
wearing
otherwise
a
it'll like
thin
smush your
scarf.
face a little.
Like was popular in the early 2000s.
Amazing. If we can all post
right.
those photos underneath. Fabulous. All right. So it's the last 15 pages of the book. So now we get all of the action.
Yay!
Yay! So we finally get to meet the Volturi, who are super interesting.
Yeah.
And then we're done essentially.
We're done with them. Yeah. That's sad. So they're the vampire royalty who really collect the vampires with special skills, because not all vampires have special skills.
And Carlisle hung out with them for a while.
Sure.
They were like, Carlisle, come chill with us. And Carlisle was like, okay.
For a minute.
But then he wanted to be a doctor and he wanted to not eat people.
Like a real stick in the mud.
So he left.
Like, who would waste their time with that bullshit? Like, you're like, I'm the undead. What are you trying to save people from dying for?
Right.
I don't understand.
The Volturi are very intrigued that all the special skills don't work on Bella. Bella has some magic brain blocking power.
They don't work on Bella when we don't want them to work on Bella.
What?
Because yeah.
Jasper used his powers on her. Edward can never use his powers on her.
But Alice
sees her a bunch.
What book came first? Twilight or True Blood?
I believe the books of True Blood were before Twilight.
Because it's that same, I can read everyone's mind, but I can't
Except
read your
your
mind.
mind.
I can.
She
Everyone
cribs
wants
a
you
lot of
because you're
things from a lot of
special. Like,
Yeah.
come on now, be
Charlene
creative.
Harris.
Which,
Remember looking at
let's be honest, is part of the vampire trope.
Yes.
Well,
Part of the
Some have
vampire
special
that this
Yeah.
one girl is so much more
Yeah.
special than all the other girls.
yeah.
I guess that's the girl
Which I
trope.
guess is like
The
a
girl trope.
literature trope.
Yeah. It plays into the fantasy of it all. You want to be the most special.
Especially
Sought
when the book is written in such a way that you
Are
the main character is written
As a
to
blank
stand
slate for
in
you,
for
yeah.
you.
yeah, absolutely.
Ew.
Everybody wants to be super special and have all the vampires want to get busy with you.
Well,
And
it's
that's
my job,
literally
so I'm sorry,
The
girls.
whole resolution of the plot is tied up in that too, because the Volturi want to collect all these vampires with these cool powers, and they're like, "Well, all right, let's kill this human," and then they realize that through their hand wavy powers, they read Alice's future.
Well, and they're like, okay, so none of our powers work on you.
Yes.
How will that translate into you being a vampire?
Yeah, and so
what is your special power that will be revealed when you are a vampire?
Yeah, and then they read Alice's thoughts and memories, and they realize that she will become a vampire at some point, probably, and if she does, she'll have all these cool powers. So they're like, well, if you'll make her a vampire, I guess we're chill.
They're like, she knows too much, so you have to kill her or make her a vampire, which please do that because we want to see what happens.
And they're like, okay. And so they flee. And they're like, all right, we're out of here.
Bye.
And some of the
We
powers,
promise we'll do it. Okay, bye.
Goodbye.
some of the powers work and some of the powers don't work on her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they can throw her across the room from far away, but they can't read her.
Can't read
mind.
it right in my
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nope, any of those.
And the girl,
Jane.
who her power is that she can make people feel things. She can cause people terrible pain just by thinking about it. And in the movie version by having a creepy smile and saying, pain. Dakota Fanning, pain. Like that doesn't work on her.
Yeah, Kristen
But-
Stewart's facial expression does not change at all.
She's like,
Shocking.
Which I mean,
she's
isn't
like
saying
biting
much.
her lip and just keeps biting her lip.
Is this sexy enough?
So after they're all done there, the Cullens move back to Forks. Yay! Everything's magical and wonderful. And
It's just nobody in Forks go like, wait, but why are you guys back?
And where were you?
Wait, I thought you graduated.
Wait, what happened?
You graduated 6 times already.
And Bella really wants Edward to turn her into a vampire right away so she doesn't get old like 30. Ugh. Shut up.
Rude.
Hate it. Hate it, hate it, hate it.
I just dread the day. I
The average age of this podcast is definitely above 30. So, like, how dare you?
Except for Michelle, who is ageless.
Well, it's average. Yeah,
Okay.
average.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's just the infinity symbol, and then the rest of us have all the numbers.
I'm trying to get back to my birth age.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm like 49. I'm pulling up the average here. Sorry, guys. And Edward agrees to turn Bella into a vampire on the condition that she marries him after a super ridiculous discussion about how he's upset about their discussion in the woods when he left. This was my throw this.
Yeah.
So when they're discussing this, Edward's like, oh, yeah, I had to lie to you and tell you that I didn't love you and that was the only way I could leave and I thought I could keep you safe. But I can't believe you believed me.
I just
Rage.
Oh my god, I can't. I have to laugh.
Yeah.
Because
Yep.
you better get out of here with that nonsense.
Yeah.
Get out. Go on now, get.
You know, Bella, if you really loved me, you would have fought for me.
Type
Gross.
Well, yeah, he
I
pulls
hate
out
it.
the.
I just
hate
went
it.
into a coma for 4 months, but I'm sorry that wasn't enough for you.
Right.
Which you could see because you were sneaking on me clearly.
Well, he was sneaking on her the whole time through Alice anyway. So,
And
like,
how is she supposed to find you?
Yeah.
he was fine when she was sitting in her room catatonic.
Oh, yeah.
He was like, "Oh, it's fine. It's cool.
She'll get over it.
She'll get over it."
Good.
But
Or
when she's
she's
like,
safe.
God, I can't. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it.
It's a lot. His whole thing is that I told you 1,000 times I loved you, and then I told you 1 time that I didn't. Why'd you listen that time, you big dummy?
Because you literally moved away.
And you took like
And-
the liner notes out of the CD.
He like snuck into her
2006.
room and stole the pictures of them together.
Yeah. I hate
Bro.
it.
I literally have had a guy say to me, well, the reason I don't is because I do care about you and I don't want, like, get out of here. The reason I don't call you back or the reason I stay away is because I do care about you and I know, I'm like, get out of here.
Do not do this thing. Do not do this
Worst
thing.
T-shirt
Humans.
ever. Yeah. Any of those. So we're all not happy about this, but and Bella's not happy about it because she wants to be turned.
Yeah, she doesn't get married. She just wants to be a vampire forever.
Fine, I'll marry you.
Which I admire her for. I mean, I do the same.
Right.
You
Also,
could get
like,
divorced.
what? That's just like an abusive power move.
Oh yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's his
It's
game.
like making
That's
her be
his
your
whole-
slave for 3 years before you turn her into a vampire. Never mind, one more year.
Yeah, yeah, it's rough.
What is that? What we do in the shadows?
Yeah.
Just keeps the guy as a slave for like
I've
50 years. Maybe next year.
Still more romantic than this book.
and of
I
course,
love what we do in the shadows. Whatever.
It's so good.
Hey, if you were thinking about reading New Moon, don't do it. Just go watch what we do in the shadows.
Yes.
It's fine.
and of course, in all this, Jacob's not happy.
No.
because Edward's
Yeah.
back now.
And he's like, I can't stop. I'm gonna turn into a werewolf.
Yeah, they have like a screaming match.
A
about
lot of
how-
yeah.
Yeah, so angry. And he hears that Bella's going to eventually be turned. And he goes, hey, man, we have a treaty. And it says, if any of the Cullens bite a human, the treaty's human. Yep. It's getting a little
Are
late.
you a vampire?
A little bit. No, I could never be a vampire. I go to bed at 9 o'clock.
Fair.
So that if any of the Cullens bite a human, the treaty's broken. So then the werewolves would be able to hunt them. So now, what do they do?
Nobody fucking cares, Stephanie Myers.
So Bella is really determined to salvage her friendship with Jacob. Which
Why don't they just move?
She's generally confused by like why he's so mad.
yeah,
Like, get some different land, like, and also cloudy
move
space.
to a different spot. I'm sure there's somewhere in Canada
Go be
that
a-
doesn't get a lot of sunlight.
Yeah, and you could be a hermit, like, in your cabin. You don't have to be, like, going to high school for the rest of
you're
eternity.
vampires. You don't care if it's cold out. Like, move to friggin' Antarctica.
Right. Yeah.
Who cares?
There are in your park.
They're in the book. In the book, there are people that live in like remote areas so that
In
they
Alaska,
cannot
there's
be,
another group of vampires that don't eat people who live in Alaska.
Yeah.
Go there.
Go there.
Why you got to be all up on their land anyways?
dark for 30 days.
Bite her on the way.
30 days of night. Yes. There's several areas in Alaska that have a whole bunch of darkness.
Yep.
It makes for a much better vampire story than this.
So then on top of all of these problems, Bella got grounded for running off to Italy.
Because she listens to that.
Right. Sure.
She's like, yeah, I'm grounded. And then, like, Edward crawls in her window and is a creep.
Yeah, and it's fine. Also, Victoria's still out there. Gonna eat ya. Coming at ya. And that's where we decide to wrap up the
Cleopatra
book.
coming at you. What?
Yeah.
She says everything went back to normal quicker than you would have thought. That's like
Is that how it ends?
Yes.
Lickety split.
Look
Yeah,
at
it's all
forgot
fine.
about
Everything's
that.
fine.
almost everything was back to normal. The good pre-zombie normal, in less time than I would have believed possible. Yeah, us too, girl.
Which just like it pulls back into the thing where this is not normal behavior and not normal experiences to go through daily life with in terms of the way that she thinks and views the world and experiences the world. But then her beau is back and everything's fine.
So it's fine.
Like these are the lies that mental illness tells you. Go to therapy.
My hole is filled. Well,
It's not though.
it's
That's the
not.
whole problem.
It's
It's not until the fourth one.
right. Oh, goodness. Spoilers. All right, guys. We have to learn something from this book, otherwise it was a waste of our time. So, what did we learn today?
Before I tell you what I learned, can I just mention how much I love Marcus?
Marcus
the
is great.
Volturi. So the Volturi are Caius, Marcus,
And the other one.
Arrow.
Yeah, Arrow.
and-
Arrow is Michael Sheen. He's great.
Yeah. Arrow is like, ooh, you've got special powers.
He's
Tell me all
sassy.
about it. And
He's sassy
Caius,
dwarf.
I don't know. Caius is boring.
Caius is nauseous dwarf.
Yeah. And Marcus is just really bored. Marcus is like the oldest one, and he's been a vampire forever, and he's so over it.
I would
I
be
love
too.
it so much.
After a while.
I like,
For like 14 seconds, I tried to find a passage in the book, and then I was like, I don't care.
So,
But
is that
he's
maybe
so
what
over
we
it.
learned, that after a long time, you're just
You just don't
over
care
it?
anymore.
Good
But
lesson.
so I'm gonna WTF for a second. I'm sorry. I'm gonna like use up all our time. Why is Edward so intent on marrying her? Does he have a social security number? Can he fill out the paperwork necessary to
gonna-
like
yeah.
be married?
Yeah, it's for the tax break.
Who's gonna
The
officiate
Collins are
this wedding?
rich, and he needs to get back down into that lower bracket.
Right. And like, okay, you need to have a social security number in order to like do the paperwork to get married,
They're
don't
gonna
you?
do that Mormon marriage where it's just
I
like a
guess.
ceremony.
Yeah. Like
because they need to go to the same heaven when they die.
yeah. Because if
Mormons
you're a
are-
good Mormon, you get a planet when you die, and if you're a good wife, you get to live on your husband's planet. I hate it.
Thank you.
Hate it a lot.
Sarah Wallisch, city employee. You know what? Do you even have the proper paperwork? Can you
What
even
is
fill
your
that
social
out,
security
Edward?
number,
like-
Edward?
Your social security number, like, do you get a new social security number every
Every
like
time you
50
start,
years
yeah.
to like make sure that it's
Is it just like 6? That's your
my social security number is 6.
Again, like that's the backstory we should get in these books is the people who forge all the documents for these vampires.
Well, and they do reference Alice getting forged documents and like forging documents. Like they reference that
They need
a few
passports.
times. Yeah.
That's fair. It's very true.
Yeah.
Lovely. All right.
Anyway.
Michelle, what did you learn?
That I'm not a really big fan of vampire books. Yeah, I've tried several. This is not the first vampire. I've tried True Blood. Even Interview with the Vampire, all that, it just didn't do it for me. I don't know. They don't do it for me.
Are you sure? Because they're like rich and they're mean.
I know. You would think.
They're rich and mean.
I mean, the most would be Interview with the Vampire that I got into, but I've tried a bunch and given up. There are other ones. There were some like romance, sexy time novels that I tried too. Didn't work.
Nothing.
And that's what I learned.
All right. Andrea?
Not into it.
On the opposite side of Michelle, I learned to go reread the better vampire series I read.
Fair.
If you want just sexy times, read the Anita Blake series by Laurel K. Hamilton. Stop reading after a while; it gets rapey and gross. But the beginning one's great.
Okay.
If you want just campiness, the Sookie Stackhouse novels, fantastic.
Don't read them all right in a row.
Yeah,
though.
no, take breaks.
It's confusing.
Yeah, they're pretty formulaic and basic, but they're fun and silly and over the top. Charlene Harris is the author there. If you want werewolves, read Blood and Chocolate by Annette Curtis Klaus. And if you are a younger reader and you're looking for like supernatural romance, there's an author named Amelia Atwater Rhodes. She wrote a series of vampire and like shapeshifter and other supernatural being romances when she was actually a teenager.
Oh.
I love it.
And they are very similar thematically. There's a lot of the danger of vampire hunters falling in love with vampires, shapeshifters falling in love with humans, and things like that. But they are written by a teenager for teenagers. The series is called Den of Shadows. The author is Amelia Atwater Rhodes. She wrote her first book when she was like 13. It's fantastic. Read that. Don't read this. Don't do it.
Nice. Right on. I learned that I no longer feel bad about making you guys read Blubber. So
I do have one more RPATS quote.
yes.
To close it out.
To close it out, like a little wrap up. A lot of stuff in the Twilight world doesn't make sense. If it hadn't been so successful, I think people would have thought it was really weird. It's a really weird story. But I think once it becomes mainstream, it's difficult for people to see how strange the story is. Perfect. Once you got it in your head, you're like, oh, this is just the thing for little girls. And then, like, it's difficult to get past. And also, when I first read it, it seemed like a book that wasn't supposed to be published.
You're right. You right, RPATS.
RPATS, speaking for us all.
Lovely. Awesome. All right. New moon. You're being put to bed.
Bye.
We will see you later.
Bye.
And we are very excited to move on to next month. A special dip into the world of graphic novels. Yeah. Led by Miss Andrea Roedel-Schroeder.
Sorry,
loves
guys.
this.
I'm excited.
Yeah. So what are we taking on next month?
I believe we will be tackling the late 90s, early 2000s journey. That is Johnny the Homicidal Maniac by Jonan Vasquez. If you frequented Hot Topic in that decade, you own this, you know this, you love this. Buckle up.
Here we go. That's very exciting. I know people are really chomping at the bit for that one too. Also some fights for guest stars on those episodes. So very exciting. Awesome. Thank you very much to our panel today. Miss Sarah Wallisch, shoulder popping just a little bit. Miss Michelle White.
Thank you.
Miss Andrea Roedel-Schroeder. And I'm Laura Holterman, and thank you very much to Sexy Hackers for giving us this awesome space and for producing some really cool podcasts. So be sure to like and subscribe and check out some of the other podcasts on the network. Monday nights, there's No Dice Live.
Super fun.
Super fun improv, like D&D style.
And you get to help
fun things.
guide the action.
Yeah, you get to contribute like a call-in show, but write in so you don't have to talk to people. Yes. We know.
It's a win-win.
Yeah. Awesome. And we will see you guys next week, Wednesday.
Bye.
SexyHackers.com! Stream Team!